Hello, today I'm going to show you a very basic Zentangle. And Zentangles are just kind of these line drawings we do that end up making a really interesting pattern at the end. The most wonderful thing about them is you don't really have to be able to draw straight lines. So I want you to take whatever piece of paper you're working with and just draw roughly a square. You can see my line's not amazingly straight. It's fine if it's a little curvy. But I'm just drawing a square. If you're using rectangular paper, just draw approximately a square. And then we're going to kind of make it into 4. So kind of like a window pane. One across, one down. And now we have the scene set for our Zentangle. And I'm going to show you the basic way we're going to do it. So this one's going to go up. This one's going to go up. This one's going to go down. And this one's going to go down. If you've not done a Zentangle, that won't make any sense to you. However, if you have, it might. So we're going to start at this point. We're going to go from the point, excuse me, the angle to a flat edge. So I'm just going to come up, and I've made that triangle there. So then I'm going to do the same thing from the point I just made. I'm going to come over to the flat edge, and I'm going to keep doing this from the point to the flat edge, and from this point that I just made to the next flat edge, and from that point to the next flat edge, and we're just going to keep doing this little pattern. So you always want to go from the angle, the little point that you just made, down to the next flat edge as you're just keeping making these triangles. So point to the flat edge, and the point to the flat edge, and the point to the flat edge, and the point to the flat edge, point to flat edge, point to flat edge, point to flat. And you just get into this wonderful little rhythm where you're going from the point to the next flat edge, and it creates this pattern. And it doesn't really matter how steady your hand is, because the pattern will help us feel that these lines are all straight. So point to flat edge, point to flat edge. Sometimes I have to talk to myself because I forget what I'm doing. So I'm going from the point to the flat edge. And when you get in these little tiny spaces, it can be confusing to your brain where the next flat edge is, because of the way these kind of get very small. But whenever you get to a point that you feel like you've made your last line, then you're done. So that is section number 1. The next thing that we'll do is a mirror image of that on the other side. So we're going up, and it works nicely if you try to keep the same spacing. And we're going from this point to the next flat edge, and from that point to the next flat edge, and from this point to the next flat edge, and from that point to the next flat edge. And this one we'll just keep going in this counterclockwise motion. From our point to to our flat edge, and from our point to the next flat edge, and up to the next flat edge, and from your point to the next flat edge, point to flat, point to flat, and then point that we just made up to the next flat edge. So we're just going to continue this until we get to what will be the center. This is where it gets tricky for me. Point to flat, 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 point, this is super tricky, to flat. And I think I'm probably done here. There we go. So you can see it's kind of created this really interesting thing. So we're going to do the same thing, but kind of a mirror image of the one across from it. So this time we're going to go down and from that to the right. Point to the next flat spot. And the point we just made down to the next flat spot. Point to the next flat spot. And then up to the next flat spot. And over. Point to flat. Point to flat. Point to flat. Point to flat, point to the flat edge, point to flat, point to flat. This is where it starts getting tricky again for me. It might be easier for you, but this is where I have to keep telling myself the point I just made and the flat thing right next to it. Point, flat. All right, and so then we just have one left, and you can see it's forming these really neat little patterns, and I just love that about these. All right, so for this one, we're gonna go downward. So I'm gonna go from that center point down this way, and you can turn your paper if that works better for you, but I'm not gonna turn it just so I can help you with this tutorial. So it's gonna make my hand get in some really weird positions. All right, so point to flat, 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 and that point down to this flat edge. What I love about this is that my mind is just completely absorbed in where my next point is and where my next flat line is. And it helps me to just clear my mind and not think about a lot of other things. So it's a wonderful thing to do in the morning, or if you're having a rough spot in your day. I just went over my line there, but I'm not going to really worry about it too much because the overall picture is going to look really interesting. All right, so now I'm almost done. Flat, point to flat, point to flat, point to flat, point to flat, and this will kind of depend on how big your marker is. But that is my finished product, and you can go in and you can paint it different colors if you want to, or you don't have to. You can leave it as is, but I think it's pretty cool, and I hope you'll try it.